The jungle of Torvik 7 was alive with sounds that could make any newcomer uneasy. Huge trees with glowing vines loomed overhead, their roots twisting like sleeping serpents. Somewhere in the distance, a deep roar rolled through the air. Most people would have turned back at the first sound, but not Jack. He had been walking for hours, scanning the undergrowth for signs of movement. His boots sank into damp moss, and the air smelled of wet earth mixed with something sharp and wild. He knew what he was looking for, a creature that most called Untamable, the apex predator of this planet. The locals called it the Ralder. From the moment he landed on Torvik 7, the warnings had been the same. Stay away from the deep jungle. Don't follow the roars. Don't look into its eyes. But Jack wasn't the type to follow rules written by fear. High above, something moved between the branches. Leaves rustled. Jack slowed his pace, his hand resting near his sidearm. Then he heard a voice behind him, sharp, female, and laced with disbelief. "You are human, yes?" Jack turned to see her, a tall, blue-skinned alien woman with silver-white hair tied back, her armor marked with the insignia of a jungle patrol. Her amber eyes swept over him, then flicked to the dense shadows ahead. "You should not be here. The Ralder hunts in this area." "That's why I'm here," Jack said calmly. Her expression froze, as if she couldn't tell if he was insane or joking. "You want to die?" "No," he replied, stepping past her. "I want to meet it." She moved quickly to block his path. "No one meets it. They only run from it, if they are lucky enough to run at all." Jack didn't answer. A low growl rumbled through the air, vibrating in his chest. The alien woman stiffened, scanning the trees. "It's close," she whispered. Branches shifted to the right, and a massive shape stepped into view. The Ralder was larger than a ground transport, its muscles rippling under short, shimmering fur patterned with streaks of bright blue. Its eyes locked on them, pale and unblinking. The alien woman drew her weapon instantly, aiming for its head. But Jack raised a hand. "Don't." She glanced at him like he'd lost his mind. "It will kill us." Jack stepped forward slowly, his hands open. The Ralder's ears twitched. It sniffed the air, its lips curling slightly to reveal teeth the size of knives. Every instinct in the alien woman screamed for her to pull the trigger, but something in Jack's calm movements made her hesitate. He knelt, pulling a strip of dried meat from his pack. Holding it out, he kept his gaze steady on the beast. The Ralder growled low, then took a single step closer. The alien woman's heart pounded. She had seen trained hunters freeze at the sight of this creature. She had seen entire patrol squads torn apart in seconds. Yet here was a human, offering food as if greeting an old friend. The predator lowered its head, sniffed the meat, then snapped it up in one bite. Jack didn't flinch. Instead, he reached out slowly and placed a hand on its thick fur. The Ralder's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in something stranger. It made a sound almost like a deep, rumbling purr. The alien woman's jaw fell open. "Impossible," she whispered. Jack smiled faintly without looking back. "You just have to know how to ask." The Ralder stayed beside him, its massive head lowering slightly as if accepting him into its space. Around them, the jungle seemed to grow quieter, as though even the other predators were keeping their distance. The alien woman stepped forward cautiously, her weapon lowering. "Do you understand what this means?" Jack nodded, still stroking the beast's fur. "I think I do." Her voice trembled with a mix of awe and fear. "No one tames the Ralder." Jack glanced at her over his shoulder. "Looks like someone just did." Asterisk, the alien woman's mind was racing. She had spent her life in the jungles of Torvik 7, and in all those years she had never seen the Ralder stand still for anyone. Now it was not only calm, it was allowing a stranger to touch it. A human. The beast stayed beside Jack, its breathing slow, its eyes scanning the trees as if guarding him. The woman lowered her weapon completely. "My name is Liara," she sighed quietly. "And if you value your life, you will leave the jungle with me now." Jack gave the Ralther one last pat and stepped back slowly. To his surprise, the beast followed him, moving like a silent shadow. Liara froze. "It's coming with us," she whispered. "Looks like it," Jack said. They walked through the dense undergrowth, the Ralther padding behind them. The jungle was still, except for the occasional rustle of leaves. When they reached the edge of a patrol outpost, 2 guards spotted them and shouted in alarm. Weapons came up instantly, aimed at the massive predator. Liara raised her hands. "Hold! Your fire!" she yelled. "It's with us." The guards hesitated, exchanging confused glances. One of them muttered, "With us? That thing kills patrols on sight." Jack stepped forward, keeping his voice calm. "It's not here to fight." The Ralther sat down, its huge tail curling around its body. The guards stared in disbelief, lowering their weapons slowly. Word spread fast. Within minutes, more patrol members gathered, all keeping a cautious distance. An older officer approached, his eyes narrowing at Jack. "Human, what have you done?" "Made a friend," Jack replied. The officer's jaw tightened. "That friend is the most dangerous creature on this planet. If the council hears about this, they will demand you hand it over or kill it." Liara stepped forward sharply. "They will have to go through me first," the officer frowned. "You can't protect him from the council." Jack looked at the Ralther, then back at the officer. "Maybe not, but I think it can." A deep, rumbling growl came from the beast, its eyes fixed on the officer until he stepped back. The crowd murmured nervously. Liara leaned close to Jack. "You don't understand. This changes everything. The Ralther is more than a predator, it is a symbol. In our history, those who could control it were leaders or conquerors." Jack's brow furrowed. "And what do they think I am?" Lyra's voice was low. "We're about to find out." By the next morning, everyone in the outpost knew about the human and the Ralther. Whispers filled the halls, and whenever Jack walked past, eyes followed him. Some looked curious, others looked afraid. The predator stayed close, never more than a few steps away, its pale eyes watching everyone who came near. Liara had barely slept. She knew the news wouldn't stay in the jungle. The patrol's comm lines were always busy, and sooner or later, someone with power would hear about this. She found Jack sitting outside the barracks. The Ralther stretched beside him like a massive guard dog. "You need to understand," she said quietly. "This isn't just about you. The Ralther is part of my people's oldest legends. They say the one who walks with it can command the wild itself. There are those who will want to worship you, and those who will want you dead." Jack rubbed the side of the beast's neck. "And you, which one are you?" Lyra's lips tightened. "I want to keep you alive. For now, that means leaving the outpost before the council sends their men." But it was already too late. A low hum filled the air, growing louder. Jack looked up to see 3 sleek hovercrafts descending toward the landing platform. They bore the dark red insignia of the council guard. The patrol guards tensed. Liara grabbed Jack's arm. "Stay behind me, and don't let go of the Ralther." The hovercrafts touched down, and a squad of armored soldiers stepped out in perfect formation. At their head was a tall figure in ceremonial black armor, a long crimson sash trailing from his shoulder. His face was stern, his eyes cold. He looked at Jack for a long moment before speaking. "Human, you will surrender the beast to the council." The Ralther rose to its feet, lips curling back to show its fangs. A deep growl rumbled through the air, making even the soldiers shift uneasily. Jack stayed still, his hand resting calmly on its fur. "I don't think it wants to go," he said. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then it dies where it stands." Liara stepped between them, her voice sharp. "You'd kill the most sacred." Creature of this planet, in front of your own people? The soldiers hesitated. The Ralther took a slow step forward, its growl deepening. The commander's hand twitched toward his weapon, but he didn't draw it. This is your only warning, he said finally. Bring it to the capital within 3 cycles, or we will take it by force. With that, he turned and signaled his men. The soldiers boarded the hovercrafts, and within seconds, the vessels lifted off, disappearing into the clouds. Jack exhaled slowly. So, that went well. Liara shook her head. No, that was the start of something much bigger. The jungle swallowed them quickly once they left the outpost. Liara moved ahead with sharp, quick steps, scanning the ground for signs of pursuit. Jack followed close behind, the Ralther moving silently at his side, despite its massive size. They won't wait 3 cycles, Liara said without looking back. The council guard will send hunters within hours. Jack kept his voice calm. Then we keep moving. The Ralther's ears twitched, its head turning toward the distant sound of engines. Liara froze. They're already here. A shadow passed over the treetops. Above them, 2 small gunships glided low, their searchlights cutting through the thick canopy. Jack and Liara ducked into a dense patch of foliage, the Ralther crouching low beside them. They'll track us by heat, Liara whispered. We need to reach the river. They moved quickly but carefully, the roar of the water growing louder with every step. Jack could feel the tension in the Ralther. It wasn't fear, but readiness. The beast knew they were being hunted. When they reached the riverbank, Liara pointed upstream. There's a cave half a league away. We can hide there. They started moving along the water's edge, but the sound of engines grew louder again. One of the gunships broke through the trees ahead, its weapons already lowering. Soldiers rappelled down on cables, landing between them and the path to the cave. The Ralther snarled, its fur bristling. Jack could feel the deep vibration through his hand on its shoulder. Liara drew her weapon. They're not taking it alive, she muttered. The first soldier raised a shock rifle. Before he could fire, the Ralther charged. It moved faster than Jack had ever seen, covering the distance in a blur of blue and muscle. The soldier went flying into the river with a single swipe of its paw. Gunfire erupted. Jack hit the ground, pulling Liara down with him as the Ralther leapt among the soldiers, its growls mixing with the shouts and the hiss of weapons. 2 more soldiers fell before the rest scrambled back toward their cables, shouting for extraction. Gunship began to rise, but the Ralther lunged again, its claws tearing into one of the landing struts. The vessel tilted wildly, engines screaming, before it broke free and shot upward into the clouds. Silence returned to the riverbank, broken only by the rush of the water. The Ralther padded back to Jack, its breathing steady, eyes still burning. With the heat of the fight, Liara got to her feet slowly. They won't stop. That was just the first wave, Jack nodded. Then we'll be ready for the next. She studied him for a moment, then the beast, then back to him. You don't just have its trust, Jack. You have its loyalty. That's something no one can take. They didn't stop moving after the fight at the river. Liara led them deeper into the wild, far from patrol paths and trade routes. The jungle here was thicker, darker, and filled with sounds that hinted at predators even the Ralther avoided. Where are we going? Jack asked, stepping over a tangle of roots. There's an old fortress, Liara said. It was built before the council, hidden in the high cliffs. If we can reach it, we might hold them off long enough to make a plan. The Ralther padded ahead, ears twitching at every sound. Its presence cleared smaller threats from their path, but Liara kept glancing over her shoulder. They'll track us from the air. If they can't catch us in the open, they'll try to trap us inside the cliffs. The day faded into a deep red dusk. They were climbing a narrow path along a cliff face when the sound of engines returned, this time louder and closer. Liara's voice tightened. They found us, Two gunships swooped into view, one ahead, one behind. From both sides, soldiers began to descend on cables, cutting off their escape. Jack's pulse spiked. We're surrounded. The Ralther let out a roar so deep it made the cliff vibrate. It leapt toward the nearest group of soldiers, its claws flashing in the fading light. One man went down instantly, his weapon tumbling into the abyss. The others hesitated, clearly unprepared for the beast's speed. Liara fired her rifle, driving back the soldiers on the other side. But more kept coming, their armor gleaming under the ship's searchlights. They're trying to pin us here, she shouted. Jack scanned the cliff edge and spotted a narrow ledge, leading to a jagged opening in the rock, maybe an entrance to the fortress Liara spoke of. That way. He pointed. The Ralther bounded back to them, growling low as if sensing his plan. Liara covered their retreat, her shots forcing the soldiers to stay back, while Jack moved toward the ledge. The path was only wide enough for one at a time, and the drop below was endless. Halfway across, the gunships opened fire, blasts of energy striking the cliff around them. Stone shards flew past Jack's face. The Ralther roared again, leaping at the nearest ship. Its claws tore into the hull, forcing the pilot to pull away before losing control. They reached the opening in the cliff, stumbling inside as the darkness swallowed them. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of dust and age. Liara pressed her back to the wall, breathing hard. We made it, for now. Jack glanced at the Ralther. The beast stood at the entrance, watching the gunship circle outside. Its tail lashed slowly, muscles tense, ready to strike again if they came closer. Liara looked at Jack. This isn't just survival anymore. If we win here, you prove the Council can't control the wild or the people. Jack placed a hand on the Ralther's neck. Then let's make sure we win. The fortress was silent, its stone halls stretching into darkness. Jack and Liara moved quickly, following the faint light from cracks in the walls until they reached a wide chamber that overlooked the valley. From here, they could see the Council gunships circling like vultures. They'll attack soon, Liara said, checking her rifle. This place has strong walls, but they'll bring enough firepower to tear it apart. The Ralther paced near the entrance, its gaze fixed on the sky. Jack could feel the tension in the air, thick as the jungle heat. If they want a fight, he said quietly, we give them one they'll never forget. Liara glanced at him. That's not bravery, human. That's survival. Engines roared louder. The first gunship dropped into range, soldiers rappelling toward the cliff. The Ralther let out a roar that echoed off the stone, then charged forward, swiping two soldiers from their cables before they touched the ground. The fortress came alive with movement. Jack and Liara held the entrance, their shots forcing the attackers to scatter. The Ralther moved like a living storm, darting between soldiers, striking hard, vanishing into shadow, then reappearing with lethal precision. A blast shook the walls, dust falling from the ceiling. The second gunship hovered close, its cannons aimed at the fortress opening. Jack knew one hit could bring the entrance down. Cover me, he shouted to Liara. He sprinted toward the edge, the Ralther bounding beside him. As the gunship fired, the beast leapt, claws slamming into the hull with a sound like tearing metal. Jack followed, grabbing onto a handhold and pulling himself up. Together, they tore through wiring and panels until the ship sputtered and spun away, vanishing into the jungle below. When they climbed back inside, the remaining soldiers were already retreating, their formation broken. The surviving gunship rose higher, then disappeared into the clouds. Silence settled over the fortress. Liara lowered her rifle, her breathing heavy but steady. They won't be back, not after this. Jack looked at the Ralther, its fur streaked with dust but its eyes still bright. He placed a hand on its shoulder. You saved all of us. Liara stepped closer, her voice softer now. You've done more than survive, Jack. You've changed the way my people will see both humans and the wild." Jack smiled faintly. "Then let's make sure they remember." They left the fortress together, human, alien, and predator walking side by side down the cliff path. Word of what happened would spread faster than any council decree. And somewhere deep in the jungle, the wild itself seemed to have shifted. As if the Ralder's choice had echoed through every living thing. From that day on, no one dared to speak of taming the wild without remembering the human who walked with the untamable.